I once did get on a ladder and change some smoke detectors.
Does that count? Call the super to change a light bulb in your condo.
It was high up. All right. That is the show.
And to think, all you had to do was point at it. You know what the problem is? That light bulb's not working.
All right, Anthony. Welcome back to Worst Seats in the House. Mike Russo, Anthony LaPanta, coming to you in between games 2 and 3 of a 3-game wild road trip that continues on to Chicago on Wednesday night. Anthony will unfortunately not be coming to one of his favorite cities because that game is on national television, but you made up for it by spending a extra 8 hours in Winnipeg.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
It was funny how many times the conversation came up because I can't remember the last time we had a full off day in Winnipeg to begin with.
Right.
It was probably the playoffs back in 2018.
The one time I do remember was the year that Kyle Quincy was there between the St. Louis. That was the year they got Prosser back, right after. It was Quincy's last game. I don't know if you remember this. They go to St. Louis, and so this would have been pre-2018, right? They go to St. Louis. They get shellacked. Quincy was a -3 with Dumba, and we go to Winnipeg. We have a full off day there, and then he was again just not very good. And then that was his last game. They got rid of Quincy and brought in Nate Prosser. That's the only one I can remember.
The last one I remember other than the playoffs was Super Bowl Sunday when we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And because we sat in the Shark Club watching the Super Bowl.
Right.
The year the Patriots rallied from way down to beat the Falcons, I think it was. And the players were all sitting upstairs at the Shark Club watching the game there. That was the last one I could remember, but most of the time we're either second to back-to-backs or we're starting a trip by heading up there where we've had an off night. But we had a full off day there, and there's just nothing to do in Winnipeg. So it was a day where you were just desperately trying to find things to waste time doing. And here's an example: was I had done all my game prep, I had gotten a workout, I had had lunch. So I jumped in a cab and went out to the Polo Park Mall. Just figured I'll bum around the mall for a while. I bummed around the mall as long as I could, and I looked at my watch, and it was 4 p.m, and I was like, I have nothing left that I can do. So I decided to walk home from the mall. It's 3.5 miles, but I thought, well, at least that'll kill an hour and a half instead of 15 minutes in an Uber. And so I walked back from the mall, and that got me at least close enough to dinner time where I felt like, all right, I can go to a sports bar and watch hockey and start my night. But then last night it was supposed to be a great evening coming home because we were going to get home at a reasonable hour.
Right.
Game was at 3 p.m. We're going to be home in our own houses by 9, maybe 9:30 at the latest. And instead, I think I hit the sheets at 3 a.m. after we had to wait for a new plane to come.
So did you clear customs and find out the plane was...
Yeah, we were on the plane already. We had already eaten.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden the pilot came on and said, well, we're going to try and reboot the plane and see if that works. And it didn't. So then off the plane, onto buses, drove into a local sports bar, Earl's, and watched some Monday Night Football, had a few drinks, had some food, and then back on buses when the new plane arrived. And I think we left about 1 a.m.
And you had to clear customs again, right?
I had to clear customs here. We hadn't gone through customs up there. We had just gone through security. Customs was happening when we got back to St. Paul. And it was just it was a long day and a late night in a city that everybody the day before was already looking at each other like, what can we do in this town? And then all of a sudden it got extended even further. So there's bigger problems you could have, but it was a really late night.
In the meantime, the Wild won their 5th game in a row. They're now 9-1-1 this month, which is a league best. Colorado, which comes to town here on Friday, which, by the way, is Black Friday, Anthony, the day before Cyber Saturday. They come downtown Friday, so that'll be fun because Colorado's absolutely on fire as well. They're 9-1 this month. And then what's the point streak at now? 7 or 8?
7-0-1.
Yeah, 7-0-1, which coincides with Matt Zuccarello coming back to the lineup. But right now, the way this team is defending, it is just impeccable. But it's, yesterday was a game. We've talked a lot how they really haven't needed goalies to steal a game. I don't think that you could say that Wallstedt stole the game, but man, did he make some great saves.
He did, and it's similar to what we had talked about during the stretch just prior to this run for the Wild, where they were 1-5-3 and said, it isn't like you'd point to the goalies and say they lost them that game, that that goal was soft or that, but the opposition goaltender was just a little bit better every night. It's been the reverse during this run. I don't think there have been very many games where you'd say the Wild goaltender stole the game, but there's been a lot where the Wild goalie's been better than the opponent's goalie. Mm-hmm. And as was the case in both of these games on the trip, when you look at their numbers, it's really amazing. They're 7-0-1, and they've only got up 9 goals in the 8 games and had the absurd stretch without a 5-on-5 goal against. If you throw out the one loss during the stretch, which was the 2-1 overtime loss against San Jose, when the Sharks scored 2 on, I think they had either 16 or 18 shots in the game, not very many. Remember, that was the night Celebrini had 3% expected goals for during the game and wound up being a part of the winner. But if you throw out that game, the Wild goaltender save percentages during this run is like 96.8. I mean, they're scoring on 3.2% of their shots.
It's crazy.
Imagine how many shots you'd have to get to stay in games at that rate.
Wild haven't had a deficit in 480 minutes. That's 8 games.
So remember early in the year when we had talked about it, had a couple of graphics. There was a point, I don't remember how many games in, but at that point, maybe 8-10 games into the season,
Boston was the only team that trailed.
I think it was the Ducks at that, or no, it was Boston at that time, that they were the only team that had spent more time trailing than the Wild. Now the Wild are 4th in the league in minutes spent ahead. So
and
think about that includes the bad stretch. So, and that was 4th going into the Winnipeg game. So now I'm sure they're even higher up than that.
Because I saw your chart going into that game, and they were
Winnipeg was 2 and Minnesota was 4, and the Wild were the only one that played with the lead, obviously, in that game.
It's crazy. Our next live show is December 15th, 7 p.m. at Tuttle, so come on out for that. Very exciting show today because Margo is going to make her podcast debut during here. We're going to get to the bottom of who diagnosed the subwoofer. So
well,
that'll
actually,
be exciting.
You know what? We should talk about that because
come on over, Margo. It was your birthday yesterday.
So because of the fact that you quote fixed our basement. Right now, how you fixed it was by pointing at the cupboard and saying the sound's coming from there. Right. So, but I'm just saying, if you.
By the way, Margo is disagreeing with him as we're talking.
No, she's not. She doesn't disagree with this. So let's just say, for example, that you had your car wasn't working. And you pop open the hood and you point and say, "Oh, it's coming from there." Does that mean you fixed it? It is
very different when you call the day before XL Energy to have them actually come out to look at it. I just walked in here. I told you right now your fridge is broken.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe you should go over right now and just point at our fridge because we just had to replace the refrigerator. Yeah. So does that mean you fixed our fridge
right, Margo,
because you pointed at it and said that it didn't work?
There you go, Margo. Speak into the mic. You got to come close to the mic.
No one cares about the story anymore.
Yeah, I know that.
But I will say you came over, we had a problem, and you identified the problem, and therefore it was fixed.
Right. So identifying the problem is way different than fixing the problem.
But the point is that you guys were about to call Aquarius Home Services.
No, we weren't. You wanted us to call Aquarius Home Services. I said no. I wasn't going to do anything.
Something to be done.
Right.
Yes.
And then Russo
right.
did
so
something.
you guys are contradicting contradicting your own story. I didn't want to call anybody because
that's all I needed was Margo.
Everybody,
I just needed Margo to yell at you in front of everybody.
Right.
That's
and
all
that
we need.
happens all the time. But I'm saying that you have to understand the difference between pointing at something and saying that's what doesn't work. And in order to fix it.
You had a utility company come on out to figure out what the noise was.
No, I called them to ask them if it was related.
All you had to do
them.
was walk downstairs and open that cupboard, and you would have.
And if you open the cupboard, was it fixed?
It was fixed after
it was
Margo
fixed
almost got electrocuted.
I fixed it.
Margo almost got electrocuted.
If you can tell me what it was that was making the noise, and then what had to happen for it blown. It wasn't blown. It just had to be. It had to be fixed, which I fixed it. Right. You pointed at it. I fixed it.
All right. After 2 weeks of it making noise, where you're having utility companies
come on, it was sporadically for 2 months.
All right. Let's get back to the goaltending. Yeah. In all honesty, though, man, Jesper Wallstedt. If you think about coming into the season, they give Gus the big contract because they weren't positive exactly what they had in Wally. And I you and I kind of made a flippant comment last week that, it's the difference between playing behind an NHL blue line and an AHL blue line. I think there's a lot of reality to that. But this kid is so confident right now. And they've got 2 goalies playing on top of their game. To the point, by the way, that when do you ever see goaltenders get shutouts and not start the next game? This is probably going to be the 4th time of the 5 coming up.
Where the guy didn't play the next game.
Because I
Gus had the shutout on opening night and played the next game.
Right. And then the
everyone since then, the guys had a shutout and not made the next.
And we've got to assume Gus is going to start in Chicago.
I would assume so. And I think right now, John Hines is just going to start alternating.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you? And you've set the precedent too, because Gus or Wally had a shutout. He didn't get the next start. Mm-hmm. Gus had a shutout. He didn't get the next start.
Right.
Wallstedt has a shutout. He didn't get the next start. So now you've established that this is just what we expect for these guys. And I mean, it really is amazing. They have 5 shutouts. No other team in the league has more than 3. There were only 4 goalies who have 2 or more, and the Wild have 2 of those 4 goalies. And I think in most of these cases, though, even going back to Gus on opening night, he didn't have to be great. He was barely tested. Wallstedt each night has had to make 1, maybe 2 saves. I thought in Winnipeg might have been the game he had to be the best out of this recent run, and he was terrific when he had to be. But they're just making the saves that they're supposed to make, and then they're making that occasional hard to quantify timely save that we talked about so often that they weren't making earlier when 1-0 was becoming 2-0 because they just didn't make the big stop. And now these last few games, they have made that big stop. And it has given the Wild time. Look at how many of these times they've scored first in 12 games in a row.
Yeah.
There's been a handful of them where it was second period. And you had to get some saves early to get you to that point. Then there's been a bunch of these games where when it was 1-0, the Wild couldn't get the second goal. Mm-hmm. And the big saves that happened during that time to keep the lead intact have been significant. I think for Wallstedt, he came in better shape. He came in better prepared mentally to deal with the stresses, the challenges, the ups and downs of the position. And I think if you go back to his first start of the year against the LA Kings, that's a great example. Up 3, Wild in command, and all of a sudden he gets beat 3 times in the third period, the third one coming late with the extra attacker. And earlier in his career, last year, a lot of young goalies, you'd probably see them give up the next shot early in the overtime. And instead, he made a couple stops in overtime, beat the Kings in the shootout. And it was, okay, this is a guy who's got a little bit more gumption to him than what we had seen last year when he was challenged.
Yeah, truly unreal. They're getting such good play from their blue line right now. Jake Middleton had a fabulous game yesterday. Brock Faber, no points in his first 9 games. Now has 5 goals and is at 12 or 13 points since, maybe even more. And what a shorthanded goal. The play he made defensively to make the pinch, the guy on the wall, triggered the odd man rush. And then Marcus Johansson, Brock said that he was communicating the entire way up the ice. And then he turns a 2-on-1 into a 3-on-2, lets Brock know that he essentially has time. And it turns out to be such a huge goal in that game, Anthony.
I don't know if you listened to the post-game interview that I had with Brock that night. And I asked him about his game trending the way it's been trending. And what I think is amazing is it was right after he called himself out after the game against Utah where he was not very good. And at that point, 9 games into the season, he didn't have a point. Was a -7 player, had been a -2 that night, had been responsible for a couple of the Utah goals in what was a bad loss for the Wild. And from the next night on, he had 3 assists the next night in the game against San Jose, looked like a totally different player. And since that time, he's a +6, 13 points in 14 games now. But I asked him about it, and he said, you know what? I had to sit down with myself after the game, and he said, I made the comment. I wasn't really necessarily even thinking about what I was saying, but what I decided was I have to just control what I can control.
Yeah.
And what I can control is being really good defending and play hard. And he said, the other stuff, sometimes pucks are going to go off your stick. Sometimes you're going to miss the nets. I can't control that, which was a little bit. You can control a little bit of it. You have more control over where the puck goes than the guy who doesn't have it on his stick. But I just thought the way he took ownership of his own struggles and the amount of blame he put on himself for the team struggles was a maturation way beyond his years.
Absolutely.
And to listen to him reflect back on it now and say that he now just feels so much more comfortable playing. I don't think it's a coincidence that the top 4 defensemen have been solidified so that the team itself is tighter. That bleeds through the club when it's a momentum changing shift can happen when things go haywire in your own zone, even if you weren't on the ice, that can carry over into your shift. That just doesn't happen as often anymore because everything's more stable. And that's the kind of player he is and the kind of play where he thrives.
The story I did last week where Brock and Marcus Foligno and Jared Spurgeon really opened the curtain to that player-only meeting that they had after the Pittsburgh loss there on October 30th. He said the same thing to me in that story, and I agree with you. I just think that it just says everything about his maturity. And there, the one thing that also that 3-assist game coincided with the exact game that John Hines made a couple little coaching moves. He put Brock back on the second power play for the first time all season, and he put Jared Spurgeon with Jake Middleton and Brock Faber with Jonas Brodin and got Jared away from Boyum, Jake away from Juracek, got everybody feeling themselves again, sheltered minutes for the third pair, and they've been outstanding ever since. And how about Jared Spurgeon this month? Talk about putting your money where your mouth is. He has the team meeting, and ever since this month, he's played 174 minutes at 5-on-5 without being on the ice for a goal against. That's absolutely unbelievable. The Wild are winning, according to Brett Marshall, 9-0. While controlling 57% of the expected goals when Spurgeon is on the ice in the month of November at 5-on-5.
Yeah, now there's a little bit of a caveat there because he was a -2 in the Carolina game because he was on the ice for 2 4-on-4 goals.
Right.
But
he's been on the ice for a 3-on-3.
Yeah, but we had the stat in our show the other night. I don't know if that's where you had seen it, but the Middleton and Spurgeon were 2 and 3 in the league in terms of the high danger chances for and against 5-on-5 in the month of November. I can't remember there was one player that was 10-0. They were both 9-0. So they had the biggest gap other than one player in the NHL over that stretch.
Right. Truly tremendous. I want to talk about Yakov Trenin. He gets a lot of, probably brunt of criticism, maybe a little malign just based on his contract, but he is playing his best hockey for a while now, really all month, like the entire team all month. It's been a total reset, flip of the switch, but number 1 in the NHL in hits during this time. Makes the great play on the Danil Yurov goal the other night when Sturm makes the great change, gets Yurov on with his old line mates, and what do you know? They score. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it isn't just Trennian. Foligno's game's been going that direction too. They're both in the top 10 in the league in hits. Trennian now has back-to-back games with 8, which is his season high. He's on pace for about 370, which would be a wild record for hits in a season. They've only had,
and that was when this is a team that had Cal Clutterbuck,
right? Once, and it was Clutterbuck he did it 3 times. I think he's the only Wild player ever have more than 300, and he had 3 years of that. But I think Trennion's game's been great, but I think it's an example of what we say so often with all these guys. And it was the theme of that meeting was control what you can control and be the player that you're supposed to be. And that's what that line has embraced, whether it's been with Urov between them or Sturm the other night. And talking to Nico after the game, he said, I feel like I have to pick up my game to keep up with these two guys. And, I think it gives the Wild. It was interesting going into that game. Hines didn't have last change. Said, I'd like to get Eriksson X line against Scheifele as much as I can, but if I can't get them, it'll be Sturmy's line. Well, this is Sturm's first game. He's playing with Foligno and Trennion, and that's your secondary shutdown checking line that you're going to make sure is on the ice anytime Scheifele is. And it obviously worked. Winnipeg didn't score.
We'll see what happens at practice on Tuesday before they head out to Chicago. If Ryan Hartman and Marco Rossi could practice. Also, Vladimir Tarasenko's been out. Vinny Hinostroza is going to be out for a while. When I come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about Danil Urov and how he's fit in with Kaprizov and Zuccarello. I want to ask you about that line as well. Zuccarello, as I mentioned, hasn't been in a game yet for a regulation loss. Kaprizov playing his best game of the season now for a while. We'll be right back on Worst Seats in the House. Holiday season for many means a lot of stress, a lot of things you worry about. Company coming over, getting the house in order, grocery shopping and cooking, and all those gifts to buy. The last thing you need is more stuff to worry about, like the equipment in your home faltering. My advice, keep Aquarius Home Services on speed dial. Plumbing issues like a water heating that stopped heating? Call Aquarius. A light switch that seems to do, nothing? Call Aquarius. Trust me, I do that all the time. And a faulty furnace that forgot it's now time to keep your home warm? Well, call Aquarius. Aquarius is the company that I've trusted to take care of my home for years. Plus, right now, Aquarius provides $98 off any repair and are just a click away at AquariusHomeservices.com. Enjoy the worry-free home you deserve this holiday season and contact Aquarius Home Services. And don't forget to mention that Russo sent you. Aquarius Home Services, earning the right to be recommended. Deer hunting season is here, and it's time to own your odds with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. With the Hunt app, you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, tracks, and much more, all at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt. That's onxmaps.com/hunt to sign up today.
Hey, Mark Rosen here for Stretch Lab. I had my introductory first stretch when I was visiting my relatives in New Jersey. I went to the local stretch lab there for my 50-minute session. I felt so good afterwards. And when I came back, I immediately called that stretch lab in Eden Prairie. They have locations all over the Twin Cities where my nephew first signed up. I've been hooked ever since. There are locations I mentioned throughout the Twin City area, but I stuck with my Tuesday morning appointment with Jason to get my 50-minute stretch in as part of my schedule. It's like a meditation session. He stretches out my legs, my hips, my back, my neck, my traps, all of it. And I take some deep breaths and I feel like a new man every single time I leave. My nephew's in his late 20s. I'm a little bit older, but it doesn't matter. Stretching is so important in our daily routine. Having an expert do the work is the only way to go. My advice, give Stretch Lab a chance to improve your overall health. Check out a location near you.
Hey, this is Randy Shaver. Along with Kevin Gorg, we host the show Fantasy Huddle on Talk North. Each week, we're going to break down the matchups for the NFL season and try to give you the best chance to win your fantasy football games each and every week. Join us for Fantasy Huddle on Talk North.
Back here, Worst Seats in the House. Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta. December 15th is our next live show. That's at 7 p.m. at Tuttle's. It was a productive first quarter of the show, Anthony, because Margo came on and confirmed the subwoofer story. So that was fun. Danil Urov, this guy's still living in a hotel here in the Twin Cities. By the way, he's staying at a Marriott property, and I was trying to explain to him Marriott points last week, trying to get him to we got to get him a Marriott number so he could start accumulating points. Just think of how many points in the last, he's been in a hotel now since like September 3rd. How many points would that be? That'd get him like unbelievable amount. He'd go to Hawaii for entire next summer for free.
He'd just have to start traveling during the summer by himself because he has all these Marriott points that he can't waste.
No, he's got a significant other, and those things don't expire. He's got to get it.
Well,
I'm gonna have to talk to the team services guy Dom about this.
Yeah, the only problem is the nights on the road he wouldn't get credit for them because the team picks up the tab for
right,
those rooms.
But he's not checking out of the hotel that he's currently in. So that would be.
Right. So he could be getting double whammies.
Yeah. I was trying to explain to him. I think it went completely, I don't think he really understood, but I was telling him about this flood that I had my first year in Minnesota, and I got to live in the downtown Marriott in one of those bi-level suites, and Allstate picked up the tab, and I didn't want to move out when my condo was fixed. So I was trying to explain to him Marriott points, but it didn't seem to be. Then Matt Benz came over and tried to who's the assistant equipment manager, and tried to tell him that Marriott points lead to nothing. I'm like, what are you talking about? Anyway, but Yurov just fitting in really well there. I think we both had our little doubts on how this would work at the very start, but look, he scored a couple times now. And what I love about the kid is that he doesn't change his game. He's still a great two-way player. The play that he made on the third goal the other night, he gets the quote-unquote third assist on that Kaprizov goal. That is elite veteran move that he made along the wall, sort of a quote-unquote defensive play in the offensive zone to help spur that turnover.
Yeah, I think he's been great. And it's not easy jumping into. A lot of people just look at it and say, well, now you're playing with Kaprizov and Zuccarello. That's easy. It's not. And I think his game's been good. We were wondering if you would see some flashes of offense that we haven't seen from him yet. And I think these last couple of games we actually have, where he's made a couple plays, and it isn't just an assist because you happen to be on the ice and touch the puck before a big play was made by somebody else. He's been involved in these scoring plays, and I think it's been a great sign for him. Not to say that he's going to hold this spot when everybody's healthy, but he's certainly shown that he's capable and worthy of opportunity if opportunity presents.
Yeah. I found it pretty cool. Like the other night he scores a goal and you would have thought he scored 200 goals in the NHL. Like there was no reaction. It was just like part of business. And that's a good sign because he is a elite player. And obviously Jared Spurgeon felt that after the game, gave him the hero of the game hat. Team, as I mentioned, doesn't have regulation loss in the 8 games that Matt Zuccarello has been back in the lineup. And I think because of his age, Anthony, a lot of people just kind of poo-pooed, sort of rolled their eyes on the fact that during that dry spell in the month of October, we're all just using him as the excuse. But I think he's showing just how pivotal, one, he is to this lineup, 2, to Kirill Kaprizov's overall demeanor, having him in the lineup, and 3, just what it meant to getting, guys in the right place. Especially Boldy and Kaprizov, if you play on the same line together, it's just so easy to just take your top checking line, your top 2 defensemen, and try to just focus on checking them, and then try to make sure that you don't get beat by the other guys.
Yeah, and I mean that we had this debate right before this hot streak started, and actually, I think one of the nights you had said, you got to put those 2 guys together because nobody can score, and I said it doesn't do any good if you put those 2 guys together. Even if they do score, they're not going to score enough to be sustainable. You have to have 2 lines going. And by bringing Zuccarello back, now it allows Johansson to play with Boldy and Ek, which has been as good a line as there's been in the NHL. It pushes Foligno down a spot. It made the whole lineup make sense. And his leadership, his spark, his energy is also a part of it that can't be overstated. That this team missed that. And it's, even when you're around at the rink, it's different when you're not on the ice and you're not playing. And that, his humor, his wisecracks, all of that is very evident. Every bus ride, every plane ride, every skate. Yeah. You can see it.
So the other night we asked for him in Pittsburgh and he ducked his head in when we were talking. We were talking like Eric Snyder Boldy. So he was like, he went back, to finish getting ready for the bus. And then the locker room closed and we're waiting for John Hines, and Zuki is outside the locker room talking with Spurgeon and a couple teammates, probably about Vinny Hinestroza, to figure out what was going on. And then Zuki just looks down to us and he goes, "Talk to my people." In other words, talk to his PR team about, potentially. And then he's just like, call me for a quote. The guy is, he's just funny. And what I find funny about him is that like he almost rather talk after losses than wins. Like what player is like that? You know, like, where he's like the spokesman after a loss to just rip them to shreds. But if they win, if he wants no credit about it. If you interview him after a win, he's usually self-deprecating. You know, so I don't know. It's really been impressive to see just the way that he's played, and it makes you realize that. I mean, they're probably, if he wants to play next season, you got to re-sign him. You know, one, for Kirill, but two, the guy could still play.
There's no question. And obviously there's a lot that you have to figure out what else you have in your lineup. But I have a feeling that if Zuccarello is going to continue to play, he'd just as soon it be here.
Well, Kirill will make him.
Right. And I'm not saying that means he's going to take a half price contract here, but this is one of those spots where I would say if both sides want it to work, it will work quickly and easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one, Marcus Johansson, points in 17 of 23 games this year. He has 19 points in 20. What is it now? 19 and 23. And the last time he came back to the Wild, he had 18 and 20, and they gave him a 2-year extension. So I joked on X the other day about that. So what do you think, Anthony?
Well,
think they're going to, after July 1, give him a 3-year extension or something?
No, but I do think that if nothing changes, he's not going to continue at this pace. He's not going to score 75 points this year. But
see, now I'm on the other side. I think he is.
I mean, I think he might have a career high.
Yeah.
Which
if he doesn't have a career high, it'd be shocking at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be close.
Yeah.
His career high is 58, and I think that he's going to be really close to that by the time this year is done. But if it's me, there is no way that I wouldn't go back to him. I don't know that I'd go past a year, but I would 100% be going to him saying, we'd love to bring you back for another year.
Yeah.
And as they were hoping this year that he'd be a third or fourth line guy, you'd be going into it with that. Like, let's hope you're a third or fourth line guy, but we've seen and you've proven that if somebody goes down above you in the lineup, that you still are capable of producing in that spot.
Yeah, if they do come back to him, I can't imagine you would take 800 though. I could tell you that
not 800.
Yeah, I could tell you. I've talked to his agent about this. Like he could have made more in Sweden this year, and he wanted to come back.
Right, but I mean, let's just say the Wild are going to get. If they're going to give him a year, I mean, I don't know what the number is, and I hate even guessing at this kind of stuff. But let's say they give him $1.5 million or somewhere around there. If some other team came and said, well, we'll give you 2 years, that's something you'd have to consider. But
he'd come back here.
I have a feeling that he might.
Yeah. Like, and actually, I mean, that's essentially what his agent told me, is that he could have gone to other teams for way more money than he was getting here. But he was either going back to Sweden or he wanted to re-sign with the Wild. And he came back to the Wild. He got his 1,000th game, but he continues to play at a tremendously high level. The only way to me he doesn't get his career high, Anthony, is one, injury, but two, if they go out and get that top six winger that drops him down.
But let's even say you go get a top 6 winger.
Yeah.
Do you really want to break up Eriksson, Boldy, and Johansson right now? I mean, if they keep playing the way they're playing, even if you go out and get a guy who, let's say it's a top 6 guy, and I have no idea who might be on the market right now. I know you've been talking about a few names, but if you bring one of those guys in, do you really want to disrupt that line right now?
Yeah.
There's no way I would touch that line.
How about Mikko Rantanen lately, to switch topics? First of all, he gets a fine for embellishment the other day, and we have seen that for years, by the way. I mean, how many times? I've talked about it on the podcast. Does he, when he was in Colorado, try to get into a tangle match with Jake Middleton, then flop to the ice and Middleton goes to the box? It's got to be a half dozen times. It's ridiculous the way that referees get suckered into that thing. And it happened the other night. He finally got an embellishment penalty.
And it was shocking to see a Dallas player dive.
Yeah, I know. So he fits in perfectly there. But then he hits Romanov from behind. Obviously, Patrick Waugh goes nuts. I totally get it, because he knew how serious it was for this poor kid, this defenseman that did undergo surgery that had previous shoulder injury and now will be out 5 to 6 months. I do believe in that situation he was caught off balance. I do, so he essentially quote unquote gets away with it. But then the next couple games later, by the way, in that game before, he had a pretty egregious hit in that game and got away with it. Then he hits Coronado from behind, and now he gets the automatic 1-game suspension because he had multiple game misconducts for the same infraction in a certain time period, essentially, and gets the 1-game suspension. But what a crazy week for Rantanen.
Yeah, and I don't think he's the diving has always bothered me, but I don't think he's a dirty player. I don't think he had intent. Mm-hmm. And I do love the fact that finally, we've talked about this before. If I was a referee and I went and saw the replay of a guy that made me look foolish by flopping and I fell for it and called it, there is no way in the back of my mind that wouldn't be there the next time I officiated a game with that player. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't call, but I would have to be damn sure that guy's stick really did hit him in the shin or really did clip him as a high stick before I'd put my arm up. And yet some of these guys just continue to get the benefit of the doubt on these calls. It really, it's surprising to me that there isn't more of that, where it's once a guy has, fooled you once, that he doesn't fool you twice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with of that. And look, these referees get email blasts every single day with videos and things to, rule reinforcements, but stuff like this on divers. And I do think that's the only way to stop embellishment in the NHL is to essentially not give those players that have a rap sheet the benefit of a doubt again. And that'll stop them from doing it, whether, they really deserve to draw a penalty or not. If they're not getting the calls, that'll stop them from diving. You and I both agree, I think, with Mason Marchman as being the chief example of that. How about Waugh in that game, though, threatening Rantanen as he's leaving the ice, telling him, you're not going to effing finish the game later this season in Long Island. I mean, that is unbelievable. And for a fact that the league will call Patrick. They didn't fine him, but they will call Patrick before that game and tell him right now, this is on you if anybody goes and hurts Rantanen.
Yeah, I mean, look, players they're not going to listen to their coach and when he's screaming, like, they know he's lost his mind in the moment. I don't think it was going to get to that, but I loved the way you responded with you sent me a screen capture of a tweet where he had started a press conference when you weren't there.
Yeah, 2015.
In 2015, talking about, I don't even remember what it was.
So Jared Spurgeon got hit from behind. I showed this to Spurgeon, and Spurgeon just shows you that when you're on the other end of it, it's of the hit, it doesn't matter. But at the end, so the Wild played the Avs like twice in a week. And the game before in Colorado, if you remember, Anthony, was a blowout. And with 3 seconds left, McLeod hit Spurgeon from behind. So I wrote a column about it. Nowhere in there did I advocate the Wild going after Cody McLeod. And by the way, Cody now works for the Wild, so this is a little awkward. But then Patrick opens the press conference before the rematch in 2015 saying that he read my article in the Strib and that it was absolutely ridiculous. And at the end of it, he goes, I would say this is garbage. And I hope this guy meaning me, has good lawyers, because if something happens to Cody today, if I was his agent, I would not be nervous to give him a call. Meaning that, like, he was threatening me with legal action if the Wild went after Cody McLeod, who could take care of himself, by the way. But I just thought that was funny because I did no advocating, and Patrick Waugh is advocating that Mikko Rantanen leaves the next game on a freaking stretcher.
Yeah, and so, which I found all of it interesting, but to me what was most alarming was you had sent me the thing and I had replied with something about
you were just your typical jerkish self on March 8th, 2015. Here's the tweet. It's a good thing Russo Strib is half a country away. Imagine the blood pressure if he was at XL today, at Chad Graff.
Right. So that wasn't mean. That was just me saying, I'm glad you weren't there because your blood pressure would have been dangerous. We might have had to call 911. I was looking out for you. But anyway, you sent me the screenshot and I looked at it and I said, wait, I didn't.
You thought you were hacked.
I didn't remember. I was like, what did I even reply to? And then he follows up with the 2015. And I said, so you're finding a tweet from me 10 years ago? I mean, no wonder you average 16 hours a day of screen time on your phone.
What happened was I found this tweet because I wanted to show the hypocrisy with Patrick Waugh. And then the first tweet under Chad Graff's tweet is you chirping at me. That's why
I was just looking out for you.
Yeah.
I'm worried about your blood pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So the Wild go to Chicago on Wednesday night. They are playing really well. They've been much, much better. Connor Bedard looks like an unbelievable hockey player right now. Pace to his game, scoring. Him and Celebrini have been terrific. What do you expect in that game? And have you, by the way, I know that you're not doing the game, so you probably aren't putting charts together, but I can't even remember. Has Bedard scored against the Wild yet in his career?
I'm not sure, but
I
don't think he has during the regular season. But it
wouldn't be a playoff.
Well, preseason. I mean, we've seen him a bunch.
Yeah.
But I think what I'll be interested to see is, and we always talk early in the season like this about what you're watching. Is it sustainable or not? Is it real or not? And I wonder with Chicago. And Bedard does have points against the Wild, 4 points in 6 games.
Any goals though?
1 goal.
Okay.
But it was on the last homestand. And remember, we were sitting, it was when the stretch for the Wild was really starting. And it was the game they were going to play the Ducks. So they had, at that point, they had beaten Calgary, then they had lost to San Jose. They were playing the Ducks because remember, we were sitting chatting with our old friend John Stroh about the Ducks. And he was asking about, are the Wild a playoff team? And of course, you said no chance, and I said, of course they are.
No, that's not how it was.
It's 100% how it is.
Oh my God, man!
100%.
I wish Gorg was here.
But the
last time you were asked this by Gorg, you were not convinced.
No, I said,
the Wild.
my God! We'll call Strohs when the show's over.
We're going to call Gorg.
I said, without a doubt, the Wild are a playoff team, and he said, I hope so, but I don't see it. And I said, well, I got to tell you, I don't see it with the Ducks. I think because everybody was talking about how great they were, how fast they were, Leo Carlson. I said, I just don't see it. To me, I look at the Sharks, the Blackhawks, and the Ducks the same way. That they're three teams right now that were the results they were getting by far outweighed the quality of their play, and we saw it on that stand. Even though the Sharks won the game in overtime, the Wild were clearly the better team on the ice, and then we saw it when the Sharks left town. They're better than I thought they were going to be this year, but they're still not ready to be a contender. And the same with the Ducks. I just think
I don't know if I agree with you on Anaheim. First of all, that division is so much different than the one that we're in.
No question.
And I mean, like right now, the Ducks are 4th best in the league. The Wild are 13th.
You're talking about overall points,
yeah,
right?
But points percentage, not overall
points percentage. But I just don't see it yet. I mean, and about the time they were here, we saw a team. I think what will happen when all of a sudden the games. You wait till, and you've seen this before, year after year after year. You get out of like the holiday break, and maybe even as you move out of the Olympic break, and all of a sudden, the veteran, bigger, heavier teams start to lean on you a little bit. Right now, there's some really good teams that you get the feel when you watch them, they're kind of going through the motions.
But the difference with the Ducks, Anthony, that's different than some of these other teams you're talking about is that they have Chris Kreider, Jacob Truber, Alex Killorn, Ryan Strome. They have good veterans.
They do, but I don't like their team defense. And I don't see a team, when you look at teams that are overachieving from their expectations at the margins that they are. And right now, well, I shouldn't say right now because it was before this last road trip, the last time I looked it up. The teams that were exceeding their goal differential by the widest margin in the NHL were the Blackhawks, and then the Sharks and Ducks were 3 and 4. And that just doesn't continue. The Blackhawks are like 22 goals better than what their expectations say they should be. And the Ducks and Sharks were both around 10.
Yeah.
That evens out over the course of the year. And so
I do think the Ducks and the Blackhawks are different.
They are different. Yeah. But I'll be curious to see the Hawks because they've been getting such great goaltending this year that they've been winning a lot more often than what you'd think. The one reason why I think the Ducks have a better chance to maintain what they're doing And it's their division, not meaning that they have a chance to make the playoffs, but they play those teams a bunch. And that division is mediocre at best. Where you look at the Central, and if you're the Hawks, I mean, now you're going to be running into, I don't know who they only play 3 times, but you play most of these teams 4 times. Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg, Minnesota. You play those teams 4 times, where the Ducks are getting Vancouver and San Jose and Seattle 4 times. That's a big difference. And so the Ducks might maintain it and sneak into the playoffs, but I just think there's a big difference between how those teams have started and where they're likely to finish. And we'll get another look at one of them in Chicago. They've already started to slip from where they were even 2 weeks ago, but they've been better than what I thought they were going to be. It'll be interesting to watch as they go head to head with a Wild club that's right on top of the game. This
Avalanche team is just a wagon right now. 16-1-5, a goal differential of plus 38, 841 points percentage, and then the rest of the league, essentially. Carolina's second in the league at 682, so almost 150 points less. Then Dallas, tied with Carolina in 682, then Anaheim at 659, Vegas 643, Wild 13th at 609.
Well, and what I think is amazing about Colorado is that when the winning streak they're on right now, they've won 9 in a row. Prior to that, they had won 7 games and lost 6.
Yeah. But
they just lost 5 in overtime. They were 7-1-5. But think about that. 13 games, they had won 7 and lost 6. Yeah. And now all of a sudden they're on this unbelievable roll. And during the 9-game win streak, I think they've outscored their opponents something like 50-15 or something like that. And just running people over. Games aren't even close.
That Friday game will be interesting because, as we know, the Wild usually in that game, it's like they've got a little too much tryptophan in their blood. That game is usually a snooze fest. So we'll see how they do there. It'll be a big test, and then the Buffalo Sabres coming into town.
Well,
next,
let's talk
about
that.
Let's do this.
Well,
let's take a quick break. We'll come back right after, and you can get your thoughts in.
I want to thank Twill and the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com. Go there, sign up for their alerts. You only get a couple emails a year, but when you get the email, it'll be about a special event or a sale that's dramatic. I got a lot of stuff when they had a 40% off sale this summer when they were clearing out their summer inventory for fall inventory. It's not a huge store. It's easy to shop. That also means that when it's time for them to clear stuff out, they're going to give you a great deal. Go there, say hello to Scott Dayton, my friend. It's Twill by Scott Dayton in the Edina Galleria. Best men's clothing store in Minnesota. Go check it out.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
There are many reasons to open a smart checking account at Royal Credit Union, including no monthly fees, no minimum balance, and a $250 bonus. Getting your $250 is easy. Open your account by December 9th. Receive 2 payroll direct deposits of $200 or more, and you'll get a $250 bonus. See details and open your account today at rcu.org/getchecking. No minimum balance required to obtain bonus. Offer ends 12/9/25. Insured by NCUA.
All right, back here, Worst Seats in the House. Anthony LaPanta, Michael Russo, December 15th, our next live show at Tuttle's. Anthony.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the game the Wild won in Winnipeg, I think, carried a lot more weight than just a normal win because of the fact that they came in on top of their game. but they're facing a team that had beaten them 9 times in a row in a building where they've really struggled. And the Jets are playing fine right now. They're getting healthy with Lowry back in their lineup. And
they're missing one key piece.
Well, Hellebuck for sure. Right. But the point is that the Wild came in there and it wouldn't have mattered if Hellebuck was in the game or not.
Yeah.
Winnipeg didn't score. So the Wild weren't going to win. The Wild weren't,
and they did it without
the game.
Rossi, Hartman, Hinostroza, and Tarasenko.
Right. But I thought it was almost a validation win for the Wild with their hot streak, with a hot streak. And that Colorado game has kind of that same feel to me.
Absolutely.
Where it's, all right, you're 9-1-1, or let's say they beat Chicago on Wednesday night. You're 10-1-1 in your last 12, haven't made up any ground because the team you're chasing has won 9 in a row during the same stretch. But now this is the test. And so I think, yes, normally that's a little bit of a slow moving game. I wouldn't be surprised if that one looked a little different because you also know, I mean, Colorado, they are well aware of what they're up against with a Wild club too. When Minnesota's been on top of their game for the better part of a decade, they've been one of the better clubs against Colorado. They've given them trouble over the years. I know not in the last 2 years. It feels like every time the Wild face them, McKinnon comes in here and dominates the game. But I think it's a big measuring stick game early in the season.
How about Carr right now? Oh my Lord, has he been great? I did want to just briefly talk about Jackson Blake. Man, what a player. We got to see him last week. He is just a bulldog. I didn't know, obviously he had it's funny last year, I'm trying to come up with the best way to say this, but he was in the Rookie of the Year candidate, but they kept on doing the paper moves with him. They sent him down every day. In fact, one big reason why the NHL right now, it's basically the Jackson Blake rule. One big reason why the NHL has quote unquote remedied this situation where now a player, when he's sent to the minors, has to play one game in the minors before being recalled back up is because of what Carolina did all last year with Jackson Blake. They sent him down it felt like 50 times. But he comes here the other day, he plays on a line with Nikolai Ehlers and Stankoven. And that line, that was as dominant of a performance that we've seen by a line against the Wild this season. It was unreal.
Well, really, that whole Carolina team that night was so good. They had the puck for the last 40 minutes of the game. And the Wild scored on that Zuccarello breakaway early in the second, and from that point to the shootout, I'm not sure they touched the puck.
Yeah, it's crazy. But as Matt Boldy said after the game, nobody's going to remember in April that they played bad if they make the playoffs. You want to take Twitter questions, or does Vinny have anything?
You know what? I forgot to tell Vinny we were recording a podcast. I'm sure he has thoughts.
Margo, how about you come back to the last 15 minutes of the show? That was fun. I think we should have Margo come on for one just brief 2-minute segment every show, Anthony.
I'm all for it. People want to hear more from Margo.
Yes. We
had the people on our trip, remember this last year, that wanted us to start the social push of Mondays with Margo to show what she made with leftovers from Sunday dinner.
Right.
So maybe we should do that. We'll appease those fans. And by the way, our trip's almost full. I was texting with our leader, Michael Kenny, the other day, and trip this year's almost full. And what a great trip that one's going to be to Como and then down into the south of France. I can't wait. I
met a couple at the Sky Club the other day that were heading to Arizona, and they were talking to me about one day wanting to come on the trip. I just got back from Denver. I don't even know if I told you today. I hopped over there I went to a Monsters and Men concert. It was absolutely awesome late last night. I missed them because I was covering the rivalry series. I missed them when they were here for 2 nights earlier this month. So of Monsters and Men, what a great concert. All right, Tug goes, what about Ogren's game does Hines want to see improve before he can be an every night player, Anthony?
Well, I mean, he has been an every night player here since he's been recalled, but he hasn't really shown anything yet. I mean, I think that's what he'd like to see is he had a couple shots on goal the other night. I think it was only the second time all year he's had more than one shot on goal in a game.
Yeah.
And I know that we talk about this a lot with guys having to earn their spots, but look at what Danila Yurov did. He was playing in a fourth line role, started to show some flashes playing with Foligno and Trenyan. When a spot opened up higher in the lineup, he jumped up and has taken advantage of it. And now, even when he gets moved back down, in the back of the Wild coaches' minds, they're going to say, we saw some flashes of offense from him. He's capable. And Ogren hasn't shown that yet in the NHL. Yeah. And he's scored in the American League. He's almost a point-a-game player over the last 2 years in the American League. This year, I know it's only 5 points in 9 games, but over the 2 years, he's been about that on an Iowa team that hasn't exactly been a high-scoring juggernaut team. But when he comes up to the NHL, he just hasn't produced. So I think they like his effort. I think they like the responsibility to his game, but he's got to produce.
It is pretty, like, the one thing I will say is I reported a couple of weeks ago that I was starting to hear from sources around the league that the Wild were shopping Ryan Hartman a bit. And that could be one thing that continues when Ryan comes back to the lineup. And that could be one way to get Yurov a higher spot in the lineup. Because if Rossi and Hartman are back, unless Hartman's going to wing, there's just really one spot. I mean, in the lineup with Eric Stack there.
And it's probably on a wing because Nico Sturm's now healthy and going to be your fourth line center.
Yeah,
and I think they'd be fine with Yurov on the wing because one of the things when they sat him for those couple of games, 3 weeks ago, one of the things I know that they were really hoping they'd see from him was to bear down more on faceoffs and become a better faceoff guy. He's still under 40%. And if you're going to play with Kaprizov and Zuccarello, that is really tough to have those guys start without the puck 60% of the time, because those are the guys you want over the boards when you have an offensive zone faceoff. And if you got a centerman who 60% of the time is losing the puck and you're back defending or regrouping, that isn't a long-term solution.
If I was John Hines, I would say to Nico Sturm, every day after practice, you grab Yurov and you work with him for 20 minutes. That's what I would do. Just give him little tips. All right. Bruce, friend of the show, who comes to a lot of our live shows, goes, Bruce must be a goalie. Why is plus minus not charged to players on the ice during a PK, but it does count against the goalie's goals against average? It's kind of funny. I mean, I can't tell you how many times goalies have said to me, why on earth does 3-on-3 goals against go against our goals against average, and save percentage? And it's a good point.
The 3-on-3, I don't disagree with the goalies because it almost should just be because if they give up a goal in a shootout, it doesn't count, right? Because you're not playing minutes. But the penalty kill and power play, if you really want to search, you can to find out goalies 5-on-5 save percentage.
Yeah, you can.
But you're getting credit for 2 minutes of no goals against when your team's on the power play and you're just standing there leaning on the crossbar. So I know it doesn't balance out giving up a power play goal against when you're shorthanded, but I just think those things all even out over the course of the season and it's part of the game.
Wild Boys 59, where in the Calder conversation would you put Wallstedt at right now? I mean, it's early. I mean, Schaefer's running away with it, I would think, right now. But, I mean, if Wallstedt continues to do this, he's absolutely going to put himself in this conversation. He is eligible. It's a little different, 18-year-old defenseman playing the minutes that he's playing for the Islanders versus a goalie that has been a pro for 4 years. But that didn't stop, when Kaprizov won it, he had been a KHL pro for a long time. So I don't know. I mean, obviously Demidov, there's a lot of really good rookies in the league this year. So it's a little early for Wallstedt. Jared asks, can Yurov on the top line be exhibit A of why young guys don't always have to, quote, outplay the guy ahead of them or earn their spot, according to Panther?
He absolutely should have.
It is possible for young players to be given an elevated role to prove if they are or are not ready in the NHL.
Right. And I'd say Yurov is a perfect example of the other side of that discussion. He wouldn't have had this opportunity if not for Rossi being injured. But what he had done is he had shown enough in a lower part role in the lineup that he was the guy that got the opportunity. But I'd also say he had also landed in the press box like 3 weeks ago because his game he hadn't brought much to the table. He hadn't been an impact player on the ice, and they were trying to motivate him and allow him to just clear his mind and watch the game from above injuries are what brought him back into the lineup. And yeah, I mean, this is a guy with some talent, and the Wild have said all along they've liked his responsibility, they've liked his game, but just need to see a little bit more. He finally started to show them more. I don't think it's a coincidence that it came after he was scratched for a couple games. I don't think it was a coincidence that it came when he was put on a line with Foligno and Trenyon, who were playing as well as they can play and about as simple a style as you can play, to say, stop overthinking it. Let's just do this. And he finished a couple of times, and that got him this opportunity, and now he's taking advantage.
I like when they call you out, though.
But it doesn't even make any sense.
No, it does.
What do you think when Marco Rossi comes back? Do you think when Marco Rossi comes back that they should say, you know what, we got to hand more ice time to Danila Yurov, so let's put Marco Rossi on the third line?
I think Rossi's got to earn it.
Yeah. He did.
He's got to earn it. He's got to earn it again.
Rossi's Exhibit A for a guy who had to earn it. They put him in the American League for a half a season and left him there, and because they said he hadn't shown anything yet. Then when he came back, he was a different player, made an impact, and he's earned now the spot to be a top line centerman.
I'm excited that you're not coming to Chicago. Sam goes, why did the arena stop playing the loon after successful penalty kills? We love the loon call. Probably because they would never have a successful penalty kill.
Yeah, I'm not sure when they heard it.
Exactly.
I heard it once, and I remember thinking, what the hell was that?
I did too. I remember and somebody's like, they've been playing that for like 2 weeks. And then you look at that 2 weeks and they like killed like 2 penalties. And that's why I never noticed it.
Yeah, I think that might have had something to do with why they got rid of it.
Yep. Barstool Pete. Goes, what are your thoughts on the throwback jersey and potentially bringing it back full time, or at least bringing back the number font? It is a beautiful jersey. This throwback white jersey that they got. I assume that's that he's talking about. Yeah, I love it.
I like the jerseys. I like them better than the ones they wore back then.
Yeah,
I like the more yellow,
definitely.
gold, and
totally.
But they're a broadcaster's nightmare. Those numbers are hard to read.
I love the Wild's whites, the normal whites on the road. I think they are sharp, especially when you see them up close, not on TV. Yeah. Like
I do too. I thought that was a great change when they went to that.
Yeah.
And I did the throwback ones are cool.
Yeah.
They are cool looking.
Yeah.
In fact, Margo even requested one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tom goes, why don't the Wild wear the green helmets with their white uniforms? More color contrast, the better is, in my opinion. Canes, Cats, Sharks, and Ducks all knocking it out of the park with that choice. I think this is a Tony DaCosta thing. I think I remember when this rule came into play last year, I asked him about it and he's like, no. So I think that's a Tony thing. Brian Kahlberg asks, are the Wild pursuing Brad Lambert at all since he requested a trade out of Winnipeg? I cannot imagine. I don't know a lot of people that love his game. There's a reason why Winnipeg's not playing him. So I just don't see it. Lucas goes, in your opinion, is Trenyon living up to his contract now? I'll let you go for that. He's playing well.
He's playing well, and he's playing a role that you need.
He'd be playing really well if he was making $2 million, Anthony.
Well, I mean, that might be, but this is, as we've talked about so many times, when it's free agent time, everybody gets overpaid. Mm-hmm. They just do. And I always, this is why I hate talking about what players make, because you're never comparing apples to apples. The market's never the same. So if there was, and I have no idea, but if somebody else out there was offering Yakov Trenyon $3 million or whatever, 2.75, and in order to get him, you had to give him what the Wild did. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to pay to get the guy. And remember when Matt Zuccarello was signed, there were a ton of people who were like, why in the world would you pay him this much? Well, he had offers to go other places. And so if you want him, you have to pay what it takes to get him. And everybody, almost everybody that signs July 1 or whatever the date is each year, they get overpaid.
Yep.
And so I think Trenyon right now he's filling a role that you have to have. If you're going to be a contender down the stretch, you've got to have a line that can go out and give you the kind of shifts that those guys are giving you right now.
Kylo, whose name is Liam Ogren Labier on X, is there a world where Wally plays so well that they try to move Gus's contract in the offseason? I don't think so. First of all, he's got a full no move. Second of all, Gus is only on 2.2 next year, so I don't think there's any reason to do that. It will be interesting, Wally, if he continues to play like this, so what his next contract will look like. Dan wants to know, let's see, everyone says that Boehm is great when he has the puck. He continues to make a lot of mistakes and turnovers playing defense. What do you think of the Wild pulling a Brent Burns and moving him to forward? I mean, well,
Zero
first
chance.
of all, yeah.
Zero
First of all,
chance.
that's wrong. The Wild didn't move Brent Burns to forward. They drafted him as a forward and turned him into a D. So that's what happened there. So it's the complete opposite. And second of all, you don't take an all-world defenseman at 19 years old, a guy that's been an absolute superstar defenseman growing up, playing in World Juniors in college, and turn him into a forward because of 20 games of him maybe being a little off defensively. And I think he's getting better and better defensively, personally.
I think he's getting better. He has a long way to go, as do most players that are at his age. But we're seeing more and more of the flashes of plays he can make that you just know once the rest of the game slows down for him a little bit, like it is right now for Matt Boley, like it is right now for Marco Rossi, that we're going to see a guy start to pop more often on those kind of plays.
Brett Marshall asked, this will be the final show. And this one I'll ask Wally tomorrow. There's a lot of people that have asked this to me if there's a chance Wally could be in the running for the Olympics. The one thing I have to find out, I'll ask him tomorrow after practice, is if we'll know if he's in the running if he's starting to get random drug tests, and he would know that. Like Matthew Schaefer right now has started to get the random drug test. You have to be added. So this isn't just a tryout where it's like all of a sudden in December, if you're playing really well, you go to Jackson Blake, hey, you have a chance to make the Olympics now. You have to be, there's an entire process if you weren't part of the orientation camps to be suddenly added. And so we'll see if Wally was added. Let's put it that way. So I don't know the question. I definitely think the way that some of these other Swedish goalies are playing right now, Markstrom getting caved in every night, Ullmark not playing well, Urson not playing well. I mean, right now, the two best Swedish goalies out there are Gustavsson and Wallstedt. There's no doubt about it. They've been two of the best players in the NHL, let alone Swedish goalies. So there you go. That's the podcast, Anthony. Excited?
I am excited.
Margo will be coming on every show. Thanks for clearing that up, Margo, that I fixed the subwoofer. I'm going to now pull out my toolkit. And
if you could go point at the
I'm
fridge,
going to go fix the fridge right now.
And our oven broke last week too. If you only had been here to point at that.
Yeah. What was the story? Remember once I called you guys to have dinner and you guys were at Warner Stallion buying a washer and dryer, right? It seems like you always have appliance issues.
Well, we did have to get a washer and dryer. In 15 years, we've had to replace them all, but I don't think that's that abnormal. I also installed 4 ceiling fans and lights in the last week. So
wow,
if only you could have come over and pointed at those. That would have been fast.
I can't even imagine putting up a ceiling fan. How do you even start? Don't you need help?
No. But I had to take the 4 down that were up there and put 4 different ones up in the bedrooms upstairs.
I would need some help. I once did get on a ladder and change some smoke detectors.
Does that count? Call the super to change a light bulb in your condo.
It was high up. All right. That is the show.
And to think, all you'd have to do is point at it. You know what the problem is? That light bulb's not working.
All right, Anthony. Thanks for everybody for joining the Aquarius Home Services studio live from the LaPanta household where Margo saved the show. Our next live show is December 15th at Tuttle's at 7 p.m. I am in town no days in December between the wild road trips and rivalry series and things like that. Thanks to our sponsors, Aquarius Home Services, your local authorized dealer for Connecticut water treatment systems, Clamshell Beach Resort, Onyx Maps, which is Onyx Hunt and Fish, Twill in the Dining Galleria, Royal Credit Union, and Stretch Lab. Talk to you next week, everybody.
So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world